All right, we'll go ahead and get started. If you're just filtering in, there's a link in the chat to take a test survey to kind of help us test out some questions that we want to make into a survey for the general public. So if we have time at the end, I'll kind of ask for some feedback, but thank you for doing that if you already have. Alrighty, so it's been a while since we've all met. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. Hope you guys are staying cool. It has been hot. Yep, bear with me, it's just a little slow. So we're really going to focus today on the state of the watershed update. Thank you to those that were able to review the definitions document that we sent out. We've been kind of collecting the information and pooling it together and making our way through the comments and edits to make it better. So thank you for doing that. And if we have time, we'll touch on some other grant updates, program updates, and have time for group announcements, hopefully. So I wanted to kind of, it's been a while, one, since we've met, and then two, we've had some new people join the committee since the State of the Watershed kind of project kicked off, and we've done some work. So I wanted to take us all the way back and walk us through basically the state of the watershed, how we arrived here. So this is our first state of the watershed, kind of like a state of the bay report. These are just examples on this slide of other estuary programs, kind of state of the bay reports or state of the watershed reports. And we are being funded with a grant with Northwest Florida Water Management District to complete our first one. So we've got 1 year to do it, and a big part of that was hiring Rose, our staff scientist, to come aboard and help us create this report.
You, not on the calendar I saw in the other room.
Sorry.
But I'm hoping it's on it. I mean, I checked it twice. I was like Santa on that.
So overall, we have a fairly short timeline to complete this project. We really initiated kind of working on it in December and January, and Rose came aboard in May. So we are targeting to have final products in November. And so in our first kind of meetings talking about the state of the watershed, our committee kind of went through all of the potential metrics and really narrowed down the list to what you see here. I know this is a lot, but we kind of went through this in December and January meetings to pick out the metrics that we thought would resonate the most with the general public and were linked to these indicators. The other thing that we did in a January meeting was review examples of existing state of the bay reports, state of the watershed reports, and kind of figure out what sort of format we liked. And overall, kind of the general consensus was some sort of grade, maybe the trend and color coding, especially with a map kind of visual. So while we worked on that, we were in the process of hiring Rose. Rose came on in May, and we kind of just started acquiring data along the way. And when she came to us, she really kicked it into high gear. And so in June, we gave a short update of kind of the status of all of the data acquisition and standardization, and we've made more progress since then. Rose has done a really great job doing that. And now we've really been diving into kind of doing some preliminary analyses and then kind of getting into the details of the thresholds and trends and things like that. So part of that work kind of led to, as Rose was acquiring data, going through existing data that already existed to figure out, of that ideal metric list, do we have data that we can use? And so that's kind of the reason we sent out that definitions document, one of them anyway, is that there were some metrics we had to kind of replace because the data that we wanted wasn't quite ready yet, or just wasn't really available in a format that would be useful for the state of the watershed report. So that was part of the reasoning for sending that out, and it's a really great kind of overview of what all of the metrics are, kind of a bit about them, that will continue to fill in as we wrap up analyses and thresholds and things like that. So that brings us to where we are now, which is this kind of threshold determination and analysis stage. And we really wanted to get your feedback on a few things kind of related to trends and thresholds. So I'm going to pause here for questions on kind of what has happened, because I know we have some new folks. And I'll just take a minute to pause. So feel free if you have questions, throw them out. All right. So we've been doing a lot of work thinking about kind of the framework, and we've kind of arrived at kind of these three different groupings. The condition, that will kind of be those colors where we kind of talked about that kind of stoplight variation. It's going to indicate the current condition. For current, that really means 2023 for most of the data, or whatever the year is that has like the end complete data set. We will do a trend. We'll use some sort of symbol to indicate the trend, and then long-term or short-term data, depending on what we have. And then we've also been talking about kind of adding in a confidence level to indicate how confident we are in that condition and trend. And we can kind of talk about doing that by using a cell signal symbology. So that's kind of where we've landed so far with our framework. And kind of as an example, this is what you would kind of see for each indicator and metric. A condition, color-coded in some form or fashion, red, yellow, green. I put orange here in case we want to have 5 colors. The trend, and then our confidence. So we would get something like this for each metric and indicator. Any thoughts or reactions on this kind of framework for the report?
Hey, Brian, this is Katie. Just a quick question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. For the symbol on the right under trend, does that indicate the length over which the data is available?
No, so this would indicate if it's a declining or improving kind of trend.
No, the confidence.
Oh, the confidence one?
The one in the middle, if you go back to the slide that you had with the orange color and the example.
Yes.
So here I take the trend to be decreasing, and then the little bar on the right side of the middle box, does that indicate that the span of the data is relatively short term versus long term? And how will that, yeah, I'm just asking, how will the length of the data available be represented in the in this graphic?
Yes, so that's a question that we actually want to ask of y'all. So right now, in this kind of trend box, we just have 2 symbol options, really, whether we want to use arrows or like a plus minus kind of symbology. And then the confidence would really refer to kind of the amount of data that we have available. So yes, it could indicate we have a lot of data, so we would have a stronger confidence, so the bars would be filled in.
But it doesn't directly relate to length of time. It could just be quantity of data in a, So it's kind of just the nature of the data set.
Yeah.
Of how confident we are that that trend and condition is accurate.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Yep. And then we're gonna get into the question about like the short and basically the like time frame of the trend in a minute. Any other questions on this? Comments? Okay,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Hi. I do have a question. If I can get my sound working properly.
We can hear you clearly. You sound
You
good.
can? Okay.
Yeah.
And I just can't quite get my volume right for you guys, but it's close enough, I believe. So I was at the Lake Watch Appreciation Dinner last week and or earlier this week, and met the new Lake Watch director and folks working there. And apparently they gave out data sheets for St. Andrews Bay Watch to John Ackerman, and we got the Lake Powell data and everything. And it sounded like some of their new people are working on dashboards as well. And I was wondering to what extent the specific St. Andrews Bay data concurs with, is that the same database that we're using and or that we'll be using?
Yeah, I imagine so. The data for the nutrients information for water quality, it's from either Baywatch or WIN, which Lake Watch then deposits their data to WIN. So we should be pulling the same data. It should be covered.
Yeah,
It is both the Walton County side and the Bay County side. They have both sides for the Lake Powell data.
Yeah, and we have the Lake Powell data. We got that, but I didn't get the St. Andrews Bay Watch data sheet that John Ackerman received. They just made copies for each individual
I'll
group.
send you a copy.
Okay. All right. And then I guess, well, I didn't, unfortunately, the person who's doing the real work on this wasn't at the appreciation dinner. The director and extension person was there, but I think they might have some things they want to share with us, and you guys may be sharing with them already. I didn't get a chance to have a general conversation, but they might be worth inviting to come over and kind of tell us what their plans are too.
Yeah, we've really just been kind of communicating with Baywatch and Lake Powell and not necessarily going to Lake Watch directly.
Yeah, this was my first encounter with the new folks too. I didn't realize that it had such a big changeover. I knew that the founder of the Lake Watch retired this last year, and I didn't realize they had already made their personnel replacements and were starting off in new directions with looks like a cadre of 4 or 5 new people.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, I will keep going. So kind of related to the question that Katie brought up about kind of timeline for trends. We kind of have 2 questions that we want some feedback on. First, we'll start with a slightly simpler one, is kind of the symbol that we want to use to indicate trends. You'll see here in the bottom, I have arrows or plus and minus. And so we're trying to figure out what symbology would be easiest. I think we're leaning a little towards the plus and minus, but definitely open to feedback. And then the other question we will get to after that. So these are kind of what we're thinking for the different trend options. We've got symbol option 1, which is the different kinds of arrows, and then symbol option 2, which is the plus and minus style. And then we just kind of added some qualifying text to describe what the trend, what those symbols should be representing. So a down arrow and 2 minuses would be a significant decline and not meeting criteria. And then without reading all the way through them, because I know you guys can read and see. Double pluses and an up arrow would be significantly improving and meeting criteria. So any thoughts on these different symbol options, option 1 versus option 2? If you want to either drop in the chat which you prefer, if you want to say arrows or plus minus or option 1, option 2, we can figure it out.
Option 1.
Option 1.
I think the dashes are gonna
Yeah.
be a little bit more confusing.
Interesting.
It's not what we're looking for. Some people will get it. I don't think it is as
Intuitive. Okay. In the room, we have arrows. I see one comment online about the arrows. Any other thoughts online?
So you're just looking at snapshot here, and you want to just get the message across quickly what's going on pretty much now, so to speak. I think I agree, option 1.
Okay, how about some thumbs up for option 1, since it seems like that is what most people are looking at. So if you prefer option 1, throw up some thumbs. Slowly.
Yep.
Okay.
Option 2. Well, I think it's because the other has different degree. Yeah, so I think that was my.
So in addition to that, is whether we need a symbol for stable. We kind of, in the previous example, we have this arrow like pointing both ways. Or is it kind of better to just have no symbol if it's stable?
I like to.
You like the arrow?
Yeah. And to your point about the declining trend but not significant,
Mhm.
you could do 2 down arrows
We could do
for
double.
like way bad, 1 down arrow for not as bad, and then the horizontal for the same, and then
Mhm.
all the way through.
Okay. Any other thoughts online? All right.
Ryan, this is Katie again.
Hey.
I agree with Daryl. I wonder if the diagonal directions would be a little bit harder for folks to interpret versus 2 arrows, or maybe even a thick arrow if it was significant.
So either like a fat arrow or a double arrow. Yeah, okay.
Or 2 arrows.
Yeah,
Because once we start making them back, so many angles like it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, great. We'll make those changes. And get your guys additional feedback next time with the double arrow versus the big arrow. Okay. So the other question is kind of this trend time frame. We have some data that we have longer term data for. So for example, we have pledge rates from 2013 to 2023. We have other data that's maybe only 2016 and 2019. And so the trend is going to be trickier for all metrics, and we're kind of interested in understanding if when we talk about the trend, we want to be focused on the trend for all of the data that we have for that metric, or if we want to zoom in and look at maybe only the last 5 years for that trend. Because it's going to be paired with that color, which will correspond to the current condition.
I would suggest including all the data that you can, but if there's different quality assurance concerns, base the trends on what, apples and apples, for lack of a better term, But you can show that the data was collected, you know, outside of that, but there was data quality issues. That way, you know that it's there, and it just wasn't included in the trend because it either data quality issues, you know, they changed how they measured it or whatever the case may be.
Okay, see another comment similar to that. Another option is if we have the data, we could report out short-term and long-term trends.
I kind of like having both, but I like just the long term. Cause you can see the short term and the long.
So I think we talked about the using both because you can like long term, obviously you can see everything, and then short term, like what if we're having concerns just in the last few years that like a short term trend is starting to get worse that may not be fully reflected in the entirety.
I guess I'm confused. How are you defining short and long term?
That's the next question.
Yes,
That's what,
The next
the next
question.
question.
oh,
But like if you have a 30-year data set like Baywatch, and you would have a long-term trend, but let's say that you have concerns the last 5 years, so you would have like a green long-term trend, but then a red short-term trend. So your short-term trend could be 3 years, 5 years, whatever this group decides. But that's where, you know, some data sets are long
right.
and fine qualities. Some are not, and I don't know if you have an idea of how many data sets you would even have for long term.
We have to look, and then some of them, yeah, and not off the top of my head.
So like 10%,
Might be, yeah, really long term.
yeah, so they're not really that many.
Yeah.
It's really like the water quality data.
Yeah.
Essentially is most of the data that we have.
And
where
sea
we-
turtle.
And sea
And sea
turtle,
turtle,
and I guess
shorebird.
shorebird, but outside of that, it's really not a lot of
Seagrass.
extensive long-term data. So
Yeah.
Or you did like or did both, I mean, you had the long-term trend data and then, and I don't know if space is a concern, like how long the document's getting, but then you had the long-term, but then, you know, for everything, say, you know, here's the current trend. And current would be
less, the 5 year
less,
trend.
right, depending on what you're measuring and how often it's measured. That way people get a sense of sort of how's it been historically and then what are we doing now? You know, is it picking up, going down?
You show like on one graph, like where in the trend you're talk off now, like she was saying, like making that area red.
Maybe,
Go back up. Current
Yeah.
status versus the trend,
yeah.
because I'm not sure. So there's like the current conditions.
Yeah, so we will have a current condition, which will be the colors, so that's gonna say 2023, it was good, it was bad, it was okay. And then the trend would reflect over what time frame we select it's been doing. So it would be like, right now, it might be red, and we had an increasing trend. So in this example, we're orange, we're okay, and we have a decreasing trend in the data for however long that data set is, we don't know, because this is just an example. If we call it water quality, then we could have, let's say it's okay right now, and over 30 years, we see a declining trend, but maybe in the last 5 years, it looks like it's going up, but because we're running the trend on the 30 years of data, it's not gonna pick that up.
And you've also got incidents like Hurricane Michael, which may, you know, cause or have a large impact on whatever measure you're having. And how is that gonna affect, does that do like a reset on certain trends, or is there gonna be this interim period? I'm just trying.
It averages out.
Yeah.
And so the
For the longer
condition,
term stuff, right?
well, even in the 5 years, if you have an episodic event, it likely will average out if you do a 3 or 5 year. But
Okay.
you also have to remember that the condition is multiple parameters together sometimes.
Right.
So sometimes I can, like, maybe turbidity was high, but salinity was not. Oh, it was fine, you know, so. It's basically like if you do long and short-term trends, you're gonna have current condition, long-term trend, short-term trend. But you're only gonna have 10% of the data that's gonna have all three metrics.
Right.
Most data is just gonna have your current condition of 2023 or the most recent data set, so that'll have to be notated if it's 2019, and then your trend.
I think that's okay.
And you gotta remember too that like, this is the first in multiple iterations. So
Right.
like, if we did this in 2018, or 2019, for 2018, we could have seen huge changes,
Right.
but then if we redid it now.
Right.
So,
I'm a more data than less kind of person, just naturally.
yeah,
If particularly if you can, if it helps that context, if it muddies the water, then no, but I don't. And it may, I mean, I don't know what data has been
Yeah.
collected, and so it may be, that's part of the evaluation, but I would just I would lean towards,
All
Yeah.
all of the available data, yeah. Okay.
no.
Katie, does that kind of get towards the question that you were asking earlier?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I have a question for you all, though.
Yep.
Is there, in addition to the report card, which will be pretty symbolic, will there be an attached report? I think you showed a graphic earlier, Ryan, that had a comparison of two data sets, one of which was longer than the other, and the overall trend versus the actual data. Will that kind of imagery be included in an attachment or not at all?
Are you talking about this slide?
Yes,
that
this
Okay.
one.
Yes,
Yeah.
there will be a written report and a data dashboard. So you would be able to get that quick snippet of, okay, that color is this and it's declining, got it. And then dive into more details if you so choose.
Sounds great. This is going to be an excellent resource. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Any other thoughts
Yeah,
online?
Ryan, this is Melanie. I guess in looking at these graphs, if these are going to be included, I would lean toward the more long-term data set because you're obviously your short-term data is going to be within that long-term data set. Maybe if you're going to suggest a color, maybe you only do it 5 years, but showing the long-term data to me is better if you have that data.
Okay. Great. Anyone else online? All right. So now thinking about our condition, again, we're leaving the trend behind and we're going to the condition for what is it right now, or whatever the last year of the data set is. So for most of them, 2023. And we've been thinking about this kind of stoplight approach with a couple of added colors of orange and light green. And previously, we kind of talked about maybe having a letter grade. And so an option of something like this, or just having kind of the qualifying descriptor of what the colors mean. These words can change, of course. But definitely want to have the color. Do we need the letter grade in combination with that? Can we just do the color? We have talked with some other organizations that have put out letter grades, and there have been maybe some negative impacts that you maybe wouldn't think about, as far as like how communities receive the grades being assigned and possibly impacting programs. Indian River Lagoon is a really good example of that. So we're kind of thinking maybe we need to reassess using a letter grade, just use the colors and the descriptor. But I know that the committee initially did like those letter grades.
Can you get more detail how IRL was, what did they say? Because they've been getting a ton of money from the legislature.
So there's two different report cards or state of the bays that have been put out. The first one assigned a grade based on different metrics and different data. And the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program did not sign off on it because it was so negatively perceived by local municipalities that it hurt relationships, because they were assigning like D's, F's, pretty serious grades, where if you're someone who's unfamiliar with the area, you're gonna think that that's a muddy cesspool.
Right.
And not want to visit, or not, not want to live around there. So I think it was just, there wasn't enough context provided, and that's what people see as a grade, or sometimes a color too. And they don't always get the benefit side of it. So Indian River Lagoon, my understanding is that they did another one that I don't believe assigned grades, just kept colors. And that's the one that the estuary program uses.
Okay. So was it more of a relationship with a member?
It was public
entities?
perception,
Yeah.
and yeah. It was just that interpretation of your general public that don't always understand the meaning behind these things and the data they are collecting.
Right.
They just see grades and colors.
And that's always a problem, because, I mean, but again, you go back, they've gotten hundreds of millions of dollars just in the past 3 years from
Yes.
the legislature.
Right.
So highlighting that you have a problem and having the data to back it up, I mean, you can choose to ignore it, and
Yes.
again, I'm not trying to.
No, yeah.
It's always a fine line. There's an
Yes.
oil spill. Counties didn't want us to say there's still oil out there. But if we didn't say there's still oil out there, BP wasn't gonna clean it up. It's an issue with.
I always
everything
think
like
about
this.
it as like school grades, like they give grades to schools based on their performance and
Yeah.
their test scores. But it really doesn't tell you the whole picture,
Right,
cause like, for example, my oldest is at C school. Which she's not the kid who go to C school, but you gotta look at the population, you gotta look at the programs, and so that's kind of the same thing with this, is you're giving a grade to an area. But you're not really looking at the entire picture.
Right.
It's just your face value.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm not arguing to keep grades. I mean, I like the colors, cause I think that's, I mean, but people do the same, you see a red
No,
versus a
yeah,
red, it's like,
right, it's
it's gonna have the same impact, I think, psychologically, so. But you kind of have to do it, because you have to show where the problems are, and. But I think I like what you said, is you provide that context, so people, and you don't have to like hunt and, search for it. If you got a red, you can say, here's what's going on, so people can have that context readily there, I think is important.
I think that's why maybe the SBC liked the Chesapeake example so much, is because it gives a bigger circle that has the different parameters and what's green and what's red and what's yellow, and then that final grade. There's lots of ways to skin.
Any other thoughts online?
I like the colors because I feel like having action terms next to it is kind of like here's the problem, here's the plan.
I mean, I think you can do both.
Yeah.
I, one thing that, why are we saying caution if it's green?
Yeah, cause I couldn't think of a better name for it.
It's like all the way there, we don't love it, but it's on the up and up, so.
Yeah, and that's why the trend data is so important. It's like,
Yes.
if it, if you can see where 4 years ago, it was red, and now it's, or an F, and now it's a B, and the trend is going the right direction, it's just caution is like.
I mean, the other thing too, I think about grades is everybody accepts a different grade at a different level. Like some people are happy with C's and D's. Some people are not. My daughter came home and was like, hey, I passed my ACE exam. I got a D. I'm like, what do you mean?
It wasn't an F.
I get it. So, if you just have the letter grade, someone may think a C is okay.
Yeah.
And in the general context of grades, that is okay.
Right.
It's passing.
Yeah, that's why, again, I think just finding a great way to have the context readily there is just gonna be the key for whatever you decide. Having it readily explainable, as to what's going on, I think is gonna be the key in all of this.
I see some comments about liking the letter grade and then the color system. Any other thoughts? Yeah, we'll give a try and we'll see what it looks like and bring it back. Yep.
It also depends how it fits on the map itself when we start doing things, so.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll move on from this kind of nitty gritty detail talk. And the other thing that Rose has been working on, because November is coming up quick, is we mentioned this will be produced into a report and then like a couple pager that just gives you the quick, yes, it's red and declining type of thing, but also a dashboard. And so Rose has been hard at work making a demo dashboard for some review. So she's gonna take over and share screen. I'm gonna drop a link into the chat that should let you guys click around on it yourselves, but Rose will also walk through and do a little demo as well. I need to stop sharing. Oh, sweet. You should be good.
Is host disabled participant screen share?
Mean host.
We fought before the meeting.
Yeah, I think that's the default.
There we go.
Is
Okay. Good to go. All right, good. So exit out all these little notifications. All right, so here is the landing page for the data viewer. So when you first get here, you're gonna see like the title for what it is, a little blurb telling you like what is the data viewer, what are some of the things that you can do at the very beginning. And then each of these cards provides information on what metrics are included. So I did kind of combine some metrics into groupings like water quality, wildlife, because we have so many that we would have way too many cards. But at the bottom of each of these cards, you can either click this button and it will take you to the page or the grouping for all of this information. Or in the top left-hand corner, there is also a navigation tab, which will take you to the home page, which is here, or to the same thing that each of these cards will take you to. So something that I'm trying to make sure is easily identifiable is that on this home page, you can actually scroll, and this will take you to an introductory page where we'll have the main map that will have all of the metrics that you can filter and sort through if you want to overlay them, see what different ones look like together. Just some general information about the sour and everything. And then there will also be a page that has screenshots and sort of arrows and descriptions talking about how to use this data viewer. Because when we start getting into some of the different metrics, there are going to be some different things that maybe you won't realize you can do unless you have a bit of instruction. So on all these pages, this navigation tab should be pinned. Feel free to click some buttons, but really the only button that's going to take you somewhere right now is either the home button or the water quality button. So we'll go here. So when you get to a different layer or grouping, it'll have the title, it'll have kind of an introduction about what this section includes, what it talks about, you know, background information, and then you can scroll again and come to the page for one of the specific metrics. So for the example that we've given today, we're looking at harmful algal blooms. Scoot this down in the corner. So here you'll get to a page and it'll have the title telling you what things are. It'll have a little bit of background, maybe some information regarding like color schemes or what's going on. I'm also working on creating dynamic charts. So each chart should reflect, like if you click somewhere in the map, maybe on a water body ID or a specific point, should pop up and tell you some information about that section. So if you see here, we're looking at HAB events by rank in 2015. So this map has two layers: historical HAB points, which is all of the harmful algal bloom data that we have, the entire data set, and then we have this layer, which is the ecological condition layer, kind of what we were talking about earlier with different conditions for things. So as you see right now, we have different color codings for different areas of whether they, in their time, received at high counts, you know, concerning counts, medium, low, or green. Like we're not really worried. So you peach. That's peach. It's technically cantaloupe actually in GIS. I have thought many times about changing it to be a different orange, but
Okay.
I also just like that it was called cantaloupe. So, hey, this green is called Quetzal green.
Well, are your colors, I mean,
Yeah, these colors don't like what we just talked about.
Yeah.
This is just a mock-up example. and
okay,
it's
but they
not-
will link up
Yes,
to.
they will be representative. So like right now, I kind of have them just written here, but those should be like maybe like an image that has the colors, or you can always go back to the introduction and understand what the different color rankings mean. Like the terms here, see, don't really add up exactly to what we have written before, but you should be able to turn layers off and on. So like if I just wanted to look at, you know, data points, these are all the data points right now, but let's say I want to go and search. So at the bottom here, move this, there we go. There will be attribute tables that will pop up. So we have the attribute table for historical HAB data and the attribute table for the 2015 condition. So if I only wanted to look at data for, I don't know, let's see if it's a 1975 or 1974. You search, that narrows the map. So only the data for 1974 comes up on the map, and only the data for 1974 appears in the attribute table. So you can, if you specifically want to look at in this year, what's going on, how many HAB events of different levels are we having? And then you can zoom in and you see, oh, there was like multiple red events and some orange ones here. You can click on them. Information about that event will come up and will tell you exactly what the count level was for K brevis. So trying to make it where you can get as much information as possible with not being crowded on the screen. And then you can collapse this back again. There will be multiple layers in this sort of side panel, which may have different information or different charts. But yeah, so that's what we have so far. Working on getting more information in here and getting it to where it'll be easy for people to understand, easy to get the information, and then We're also gonna make sure that there's a place linking the data source. So in here, we'll make sure we have access to the original data set that where we got it from, so that people aren't just thinking they're getting the data from us. They go back to where it's actually come from.
Was anyone online able to zoom around themselves with the link?
Yeah, it might have been. Sometimes like earlier it asked Ryan to log into GIS, but it should just be publicly available. Which screen?
No.
Yes, I can see it, y'all, and I'm not logged into ArcGIS, so I'm able to zoom and click on points and see attributes, tables, and layers. It looks really great, Rose. Good job.
Great.
Yeah.
Do we kind of like,
Because when you get that GIS and there's like the.
Well, so we actually have two different sort of primary options for this. So right now, what we have is things in groups. So you can go to the home group and you see there was multiple pages in the home group. You go to water quality, there will be multiple scrollable pages in there for different metrics. So you're not really just clicking by like one page to the next. But we did have another option when my first draft, which is here. There's no link for this because it was just a draft. Where this is, there's no scrolling, but you have to click to get to each page. And so we've kind of talked about whether people would want to have the navigation option and just click, whether they would want to have the navigation option and scroll. That's just kind of user preference. So we could get some kind of feedback on if you have preferences on that. That would be good. So moving forward, I know how things might need to be laid out. But if you see here, yeah, you could just click one page to the next, and then I don't have the navigation tab here yet, but there would be a navigation. Thanks. Good for me.
any thoughts online about kind of the scroll versus clicking through? Is the scrolling intuitive?
Yeah, because when you first get to here, maybe like Ryan pointed out earlier, you might not realize that you can scroll. So thinking about highlighting that or kind of making that some way that you know that you can scroll.
And I feel like people just naturally scroll.
I thought that, yeah, so it just depends. And I tried to use images from different partners. So you see they're all credited. Daryl, you have this little picture in there and the natural infrastructure. I didn't even realize.
I've just got some more pictures for you on the way over.
Like a scroll button.
Yeah.
Like the doing all.
Oh, yeah, that would be good. Because here, like this, I have this button that doesn't go anywhere right now and it links it, but yeah, we can turn that or have some sort of indicator.
Put it in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, put the scroll.
That would work.
Christina says she likes to click.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there is still clicking functionality if you clicked on a card, right?
Yeah, so like if you click like at the bottom of this card, I click it and it goes to water quality. So
It's really just once you're in water
Yeah.
quality, then you can
Yeah.
scroll or click.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so however that we want to have that set up.
Which one like loads faster?
Um,
Because I feel like if you're going back or going to different maps because you're clicking,
yeah.
it's gonna have to reload your map every time. right?
Yes, I think so. So my preference right now is the scroll, because when you open this, you're going to like individual groupings of information. So like the home, you're only scrolling in the home section for these few pages. And then the same thing for water quality, you're only scrolling. So it's not having to load, I think, as much at one time.
Yeah.
And then you're also, sometimes I get kind of overwhelmed when there's like so many pages of things. To me, it feels like there's more condensed information and a grouping and a space, and you can just focus on this. Or that's when you can go back to home and you can go to the introduction and be like, I want to look at one, like the water body IDs and water quality data together, and I also wanna put seagrass on top of that, and you can sort of look, and I may, you know, if we like, include some functionality here, so. Yeah, yes,
Very true, Norm.
very true.
Yeah, I feel like just based on like what loads the fastest is
Mhm.
probably gonna be the best way to go, because regardless of which way you go, if it takes too long to load, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, so I think I like this direction, but I'm open to like other people's views, so.
All right, any other feedback on the dashboard? Template draft.
For the individual docs, like if you click on that, is there a way to show a graph?
That's the dynamic charts that I'm working on, so it's another kind of thing I'm learning.
Okay.
But yeah, there is a way to, yes, to make things change or pop up like that.
Great. This is great.
Thanks.
And there's a link for this, so we can go play and look.
No,
I mean, there is, but there's only one thing up there right now.
yes, so
It's not yet.
We'll probably, we made it public for the meeting and then we'll probably lock back down.
Close back.
because we'll-
Okay.
mhm.
All right,
Great job.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop sharing.
It's a red.
There we go, I was like, there's a button somewhere.
all right, so there we go. That kind of wraps up the conversations on the state of the watershed for today. So we've got a lot of good stuff to move forward, and hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have some additional materials for you guys to review and updates based on what we talked about. The other grant updates that I really just wanted to focus on today, I've talked about this grant before and only talked about it when we learned we were awarded it, and it's finally been executed. So we've kind of started making some progress. So this is a grant from FDAX called Strategically Reforesting Bay County through Assessing Stormwater Potential and Existing Infrastructure. If you took the survey at the beginning, that survey, those test questions are to help us with this particular project. In this, we are really kind of synthesizing data across Bay County, the municipalities, to verify outfall locations, categorizing catchments based on stormwater potential. We're going to use water body IDs, identify priority areas that are in public areas for tree planting, and then solicit feedback on those prioritized parcels based on that kind of stormwater potential analysis, and then provide a recommendation of tree planting locations for each municipality in Bay County and a list of recommended native species. So planning grant, project timeline. Again, we really just kind of had it executed and kicked off. So we've been working to acquire the data and just start some analysis and determine kind of our land use grouping for catchment analysis. So we've been working with a master's student here at FSU Panama City in engineering who's been helping us kind of collect all of the outfall data and do some outfall verification. So he has kind of completed putting together an updated outfall map for all of Bay County. He went out and found some outfalls that weren't in the data that we had in Lynn Haven and Callaway and added them to this map. And now he's kind of in the process of ground truthing. So our goal is to ground truth about 10% of these outfalls. There are about 900. So he's got, or wait, no, there's
9,000.
There's 9,000.
10% is
10% 900. So he's got a fair number to ground truth. But he's been making steady progress, and he's also quantified kind of the number of outfalls per water boundary ID. I always say the wrong thing for that. which these are the WIBIDs. And so we're also working on quantifying the land cover, these categories: impervious, water, forest, and non-forest vegetation, to kind of use to use in our stormwater potential at these WIBID levels. And so that stormwater potential will kind of combine this land cover information and then the number of outfalls to bucket into high stormwater potential, medium, or low. And then that's kind of how we'll work to figure out this WIBID needs some tree planting, and then let's zoom in and find where these public parcels are that we could do tree planting. But we're really just kind of at the stage of getting the data prepped to be able to do that stormwater potential analysis.
Hey, Ryan, this is Melanie.
Hey.
What kind of trees are you guys gonna target for planting?
Daryl said crepe myrtle, but no. We are going to provide a list of recommended native species.
Okay.
And so it won't necessarily be like only longleaf pine for this area, but a list that they could use to kind of narrow.
But this grant isn't planting.
And
Well,
this-
there is a resource that shows you the most resilient and hurricane-proof trees. I don't know if you've seen that list, but you might want to start at the top of that list in terms of what you might consider planting.
Yeah, that'll be a great one. We wanted to pull kind of from resources like that. That would be a really good one to add in, and then possibly work with Sandhills Native Nursery for the plants, the native species that they tend to have in stock, so that it could be really easy potentially for the cities to get those plants, because this grant won't fund the actual planting, just where they should possibly plant.
Where it'll be most beneficial stormwater wise.
Yeah,
Do you know if the county and any of the cities have an arborist?
I think sometimes they contract that work out, but I don't think they're consistently contracted. City of Panama City may have one currently under contract because they do the retreat PC stuff. But I don't think it's consistent for most municipalities.
Yeah, I know Escambia County does, is what I was asking, because that would be good to coordinate with them. And
yeah.
when will this be done?
March of 2025.
And what day is the tree day?
I mean, there's Earth Day in April.
No,
Arbor
there's a
Day.
tree day.
Arbor Day.
Arbor Day, yeah, that's it, Arbor Day.
I feel like it's in the fall. I think it's in the fall.
Where I was going is trying to work with the local governments, if they do have an arborist, to try to coordinate, like, hey, we're gonna have this report, we're gonna, and then hand it to them, and then they can maybe bring that into the Arbor Day celebration next year.
Sure.
Maybe get a grant to get a bunch of trees to plant.
Yeah.
Just another way to
The
work
stormwater-
with the county, with local governments and.
The stormwater committee will be involved throughout and has already been involved, honestly, giving us the outfall information and stuff, and they are excited about what this will provide, so I think
Yeah,
hopefully.
It can also help, I think what they're interested in is prioritizing outfall as well, so if there's higher amounts of impervious and lower numbers of outfall, maybe they need to look into that with it. So I think there's multiple uses for it. We were just interested in trying to get all the outfall data ready to go, and this grant helped with that.
Yeah,
But it was supposed to be executed in January. It just got executed. And then it was supposed to go through June, and they cut it in March. So
chopped it both.
yes, they
Wow.
chopped both ends, and they
Mm.
are not gonna give us anything more than a 6-month extension. That is the maximum we can get, so
And where's the grant from?
FDAX.
yes, yeah. Norm?
I just wanted to emphasize what was a point raised earlier. I would strongly suggest with the trees that you work with the Native Plant Society in addition to IFAS, because there's a lot of interest there, and you might get a lot of really good help and advice from the Native Plant Society,
Yeah.
Yeah.
both at the chapter level here as well as at the state level.
Okay, great.
I think since we're targeting public parcels, one of the things we've run into previously is the understanding that natives are not always pretty
Right.
year long, and
That's why you put-
we were asked to remove some, or they wanted some removed that were native plants because it wasn't the like pretty stage for that plant. So I think that's a great point with the Native Plant Society, because they're gonna know
What
those dynamics, and then the maintenance side of that for the cities.
A lot of these people have personally gone through Hurricane Michael with trees and have some very good ideas about what has worked and what hasn't worked, and sometimes why trees that are supposed to be safe fail, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of detailed information from personal experience, as well as just their professional, or I guess semi-professional in some cases, experience.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Oh, Mike, I'm seeing your comment about the spatially balanced. Yes, that will be a great way to do that. And I was planning to reach out to you about that. I will definitely follow up with you on that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, and so the survey at the very beginning, or if you scanned this and tried to do it right now, one part of this is just trying to get a general understanding of general public views on stormwater and trees. And so we have to go through the whole IRB process to put together a survey for that, but we wanted to test out some questions with you guys to see how they were hitting. So if you happen to take the survey, if there are any questions that seemed unclear or confusing, if you want to shout it out and let us know right now, or shoot me an email afterwards, that would be really helpful. Did anyone take the survey already online?
Working on it.
Cool. Thank you.
There's one left, it says click.
Yeah, it might be different if you do it on your phone versus on the computer.
Oh,
I'm sure it's gonna be different for iPhone and
And
Android.
Android, yeah, I'm sure it's all different. But anyway, that is what that survey was at the very beginning, and the reason why we're just trying to test for how the questions read and hit, so that we make sure we can get some information about general understanding of stormwater and trees.
Question on question 2, the
Mhm.
most significant benefit of trees? Maybe the top 3? Cause that's hard, that's hard to,
I guess think about from the general public perspective, not you, informed.
public,
Give it all your knowledge.
there's not much of it. I mean, it just like depends on the day, cause in the summer, shade, really important. But then it also,
We could make it a multi-select.
I mean, if I- yeah, I can work-
2 or something.
yeah, I mean, what are you trying to get out of that particular question?
Just how people are viewing trees.
Yeah.
Like, do they see it important for shade? And that's what they
Yeah.
think about, because most people don't think about trees and stormwater or rain.
Right.
They just don't think about it.
Right,
That's not what a tree is, but post Hurricane Michael, things may have changed and this area may actually think of trees that way.
could you maybe do a ranking for it? Say, rank the benefits of trees?
Yeah.
It's just because you're picking one, I mean, I can't.
But then you're gonna have the person who's like, well, I don't know which one's most important, like,
Yeah.
is this 1 or is this 2 or is this 3?
Yeah, well,
And usually when you rank, like, that adds time to the survey too, so we're trying to make it as short. But,
well, maybe just say the top 3 benefits.
yeah,
Yeah.
and limit 3 choices.
I agree with Daryl. I think that maybe some sort of way to elaborate on that question or have multiple choices or, because I actually answered my immediate preference, which would be to cool off a little bit, but I think transpiration is a lot more important. But I just answered it by what I thought the general public would say.
Right.
So I think maybe even two questions, one that assesses how knowledgeable the person is about the job of trees and stormwater runoff control. And it's basically, there's a big education issue out there. Most people don't appreciate it.
Mhm. Or it could be like, what is your personal benefit of trees versus like community benefit of trees?
Yeah,
And then multiple choices.
yeah. Okay. Great. These are the questions and foods for thoughts that we need. All right. If you have any other thoughts on that, feel free to shoot me an email and we'll revise our questions to make them a little better. All right, so shifting to kind of some program updates, we've got a sea urchin survey out. We've had lots of reports of lots of urchins over by Shell Island. So we're just trying to help document when we're seeing them, if we're still seeing them. We've got our seagrass greenhouse up and running. We've been busy collecting seagrass seeds this week. The greenhouse is actually at Arnold High School. And so we're excited to work with them to have some students help us monitor the seagrass seeds. I need to take over another batch of seagrass seeds tomorrow morning. Other things, Teen Outreach Committee is getting back up to speed. Their first meeting of the year will be September 14th.
Possibly.
Possibly.
The 7th or the 14th,
The 7th
depending
or
on
the
an
14th.
event.
So if you know any high schoolers that would be interested, please feel free to share. We are also starting a vertical oyster garden program only for St. Andrew Bay right now, all of the bays included of St. Andrew. And so if you are interested, you can sign up on the website and we'll contact you once we have logs ready to go. And National Estuaries Week is really like a month away at this point, and we are going to be doing our first annual 5K and fun run on September 28th at Conservation Park. All of the proceeds will go to the program to help us fund things like those bogs and other programs. So please sign up. If you don't run, please share it with anyone that you think would run. Yes.
Can't say Vogue, because then you can say, get in Vogue, and then vertical oyster garden. Just, you know.
We'll run it by Elisa.
Sure. That's an outreach
Good,
benefit.
like Instagram.
Sounds a whole lot better than Vogue. I mean, you can just like get in Vogue, you know, and then you have a picture of it.
It's not spelled good.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
That's it.
It's about details. It's more about the impact and.
Yes.
Where you could just call it OG.
Oh.
OG.
And that's just, I would love that as well. It's better than Vogue. I mean, Vogue just sounds kind of like the.
Norm, do you have a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. As an old timer now and a avid marathoner years ago, I would suggest you make it a walk run and have a walk group. You might get some people to sign up for that who really support this, as well as would like to have the opportunity to complete a goal. And I think they would fit right in. It probably wouldn't be a huge group, but it's not that hard to manage, especially since there's no traffic at Conservation Park,
Yeah,
where the route would be.
I think we can,
We just, yeah.
Yeah,
edit
we'll
the
just
flyer,
maybe
yeah,
edit
like
the flyer.
5K to walk around.
Yeah.
And fun run.
yeah, we're totally open to walkers.
Yeah, we expect walkers. We hope for walkers.
But yeah, maybe,
Yeah, maybe make it clear.
Yeah.
Right.
thank you for pointing that out. I didn't
Right.
even know that. I
Same.
just assumed people would be like, well,
I'll be
I'm
walking.
Well,
That's so cute.
some people do like a 5-mile run and then a 1-mile walk. Because if you do a 5-mile walk, you're gonna be there forever.
It's 3
But
miles.
it's a 5K though.
It's 3 miles.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean 5K,
Yeah.
yeah. So the 5K or whatever. I've seen the walk be shorter than the run, just for time.
There's
Yeah,
plenty of intersections they think they can do that.
yeah,
We'll just have to.
we
plan
can
it.
just like cut them off,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
Okay, cool. Well, if you have any questions, we're also looking for sponsors. So if you know of any organizations, businesses that might be willing to sponsor, let us know. We're excited. The other things with National Estuaries Week, International Coastal Cleanup Day, Lake Powell Community Alliance will be hosting at Lake Powell Boat Ramp from 8 to 12. Baywatch and City of Panama City at St. Andrews Marina from 8 to 12. And those are the only ones I know of right now. So if anyone online knows of some other cleanups for International Coastal Cleanup Day, feel free to shout it out or drop it into the chat and we'll make sure we add it to our list of activities that are happening that day. Those are really the last of the kind of estuary program announcements that we have. So I wanted to take a moment to open up to anyone online if they have any events going on or coming up, anything that you've seen when you've been out in the field that you would like to share, feel free to come off mute. Norm, is there gonna be a joint cleanup at Camp Helen as well?
Yes, it'll be organized like it has been in the past, so that folks that want to work at Camp Helen will. I'm not sure who the coordinator will be this year, whether it'll be Courtney Harper or Stephanie Howell, but we'll know that soon. And just a little add-on, the business sponsors are coming along very nicely, so things are shaping up pretty well, and we appreciate your continued contribution to this as well. And it's a great thing. We really do. We're pretty proud of the cleanup and the number of volunteers we've been able to attract from the neighborhoods.
Yeah, it was great last year, so it'll be great to see again. All right.
And Lake Powell is currently open to the Gulf.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
I was talking with myself muted. We have different teams, and there's a group at Pinnacle Port that organized for just the coastal aspect. They're near the outfall, plus their boats and different levels of organization. But several of the neighborhoods have large representation, like Wild Heron kind of participates as a homeowners association, and the group here on our side of the lake is a little bit less structured, but still works pretty hard.
Yeah, it's great. All right. The last thing is just kind of a reminder of our future meetings for the year, September 19th, October 17th, the 21st of November, and December 19th. We'll be scheduling a guest presentation for some of these, so if you have ideas, please let us know. The other thing I forgot to include in program updates are the Tides and Talks. Thanks, some of you came to the first one. We'll continue to have those. The next one is gonna be community-based organizations, I think. And they're in the afternoons at the Visit Panama City or Destination Panama City location in Panama City. And I'll make sure to send that info out as we get the speakers and stuff secured. All right, that is all I had today. Any last closing thoughts from anyone online? Think of an event that's happening, feel free to shout it out. Otherwise, we'll wrap up.
Great job, y'all.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye, y'all.